Hey, welcome back to Magic String Works. So today on the workbench we're going to continue with this Pretty in Pink series, Fender Telecaster Shell Pink. Really nice. So I changed the pickups. The client supplied some ToneRiders Alnico2 Blues pickups. Put those in, everything's working fine. Next thing I want to do is address this fall away here, so we want to put some fall away in these frets and sort of polish these up and clean them up a bit. And we're also going to replace this nut. So I have a couple of tusk nuts here in my stock. I'm not sure if they'll fit, but I'll check. Take this one out and have a look. So let's do that right now. Alright, so before you go yanking on any nut, especially with a lacquer finish like this, clear lacquer finish, take a utility knife, just score that finish on both sides. I like to do the edge too here. Get over here as well. I gotta just turn it over on its side so I can see better. There we go. Oh, yeah, I could see some lacquer coming up. So it's always a good idea to do this. Otherwise you might get a big chunk. You still might get a chunk, and you know, I tell my people who come in here that that's still a possibility. I'm going to do my best, you know. Problem is Fender oversprays everything. And definitely gets on the frets, gets on the nut. Try and make it as clean as I can. Alright. I got my jaws of life. Some pullers here. It should. Oh, yeah, there we go. Sometimes that's what happens. Alright. Okay, so you can see this nut here. This has a radius bottom. Match the radius of the neck. I do have one here. There we go. So this Tusk 5042-00. I think that's gonna work. No, this is a flat bottom. Is there a radius on that? No. So I need a radius one. So I'll have to get a radius one. So we'll put that work off for now until I get the new tusk nut. And now I'm going to address the upper end of the frets here where the owner was saying he's getting a little buzzing. I think it had a lot to do with the setup, but it's never a bad idea to put a little fall away on Telecasters or Stratocasters, any guitar that's bolted on. If you just remove the height, you're basically taking a couple of thousandths of an inch off these frets so that they'll always be lower than the rest of the frets on the fretboard. So you shouldn't have an issue as you go along. So there's lots of fret here, but I'm not going to take a lot off. It's very, very light, and then re-crown them. So I did put this neck into a straight position, so using a notch straight edge here, I made sure that it was nice and straight. No up bow or back bow, so that's good. And I'm going to check with the fret rocker real quick to see if there's any issues. So starting at the 12th fret, if there's a high fret somewhere, you're going to hear a click. And I'll go along as far as I can with this length of the edge. So far so good. Let me just make it there. Yeah, everything looks good here. there's no rocking. So that means they're all level, which is good. So the idea here is I'm going to take off a little bit off the tops of these frets. And I'm going to use this little sanding beam here that I 3D printed. It's about 6 inches long, an inch wide, 1.5 inches high. And I've got some 400 grit here, not super aggressive. And again, it's only going to be a few passes. Let me tape this up first though. So the space between the frets a little too wide for the tape I've got here. I've got 1 inch, 1/2 inch, and so this is 1/4 inch. So I'm going to use a few of these 1/4 inch pieces instead of putting them in there and then using a blade to cut up against the fret. Yeah, sometimes I just don't want the blade to slip, you know. So you'll notice too here what I'm going to do is tape up the 12th fret. I actually don't want to do anything to that fret. So I'm just going to go over that. Put another piece behind here. And then I'm going to put one more on top. And that gives me a couple of thicknesses of tape that'll sort of ensure that there's no sandpaper here, ensure that the sanding beam stays at a slight angle, just a little bit angled down. Let me open that up a bit. There we go. And then that way I make sure that, you know, I'm not ever going to sand it too low. Anyways, it's just taking off a little bit. So again, I've got 400 grit there. I'll put that on there for a second. And I'm just going to take a Sharpie. I've got blue here, could be any color. And this is just a visual reference, of course. That piece of tape a bit there. Just go along. And this will just let me know, make sure that I've sanded the tops of everything. And I'll have to repeat that when we crown them. Again, so you can see your progress. There we go. Let that dry for a sec. And we'll start sanding. Okay, so this is pretty light too, so I'm not really putting any pressure. I just want to go up and down pretty even. And you can see it's already coming off. These frets were pretty level to each other, which is nice. Yeah, so pretty much removed all of the marker from the tops. Just go back a few more times. Again, I'm barely putting any pressure on this here. Whoop. Down. Okay, that's good. So they're pretty even now. Yeah, that looks good. Alright, so to recrown, I've got a bunch of tools. So this is a StewMac Z file. These are really nice, especially good on tall frets. I've got this nice bent angle one, which actually works really well. It's got 3 sizes of file. I like the feel of that, probably use that. I also picked up this Hosco one, which seems, you know, pretty easy to use too, certainly in a pinch. So they all work the same way. The idea is that you're filing away the sides of the fret and leaving the top. So ideally, once you've gone over it a few times, and I'll just pick one here, you should be filing away the side of the fret and just leaving a blue line in the middle. So that gives you that crown, which is what you want. Yeah, that's working. Let's put a little bit more. Yeah, it'd be hard to see too, right? But yeah, there's just a line in the middle there. So let me try this Hosco one here. And there's 2, yeah, this is a little finer, so I'm going to use the finer side right here. See if that works a little differently. Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, that's left a nice line there. So the advantage of this crowning file is, of course, that bent angle. So now I can go over the body here. It's a lot easier to get at, right? Yeah, that's good. Oh, yeah. All right. Let me finish these up. Brush away any of the residue there, and I'm going to lift this up to the camera and see. I don't know if you're going to see the line properly, but each one has a nice little thin line down the middle, which is what you want. So I'm just going to take a fret eraser. This is 1000 grit. I'm just going to go over these frets and remove, again, just lightly. I'm just removing the blue Sharpie. I know people like peeling away tape. It's pretty satisfying. One of the reasons I cover up the pickup too is these little metal filings. If there's anything that wants to be, catch on the magnetic coil, it'll stick onto the tape, or stay on top of the tape at least. Okay, well, that's looking good. I'm just going to brush away anything else that's left here. I'm going to keep that on for now. I'm just going to check here. Yeah, everything's good. No rocking. We've lowered the frets a little bit, so we shouldn't have an issue in the future, or at least the near future, depending on how much this guitar gets played. Good. So I'm just going to go over these frets with a 400 eraser and 1000, because they do have a little bit of wear on them. Just want to clean them up a little bit. I don't need to tape off the fingerboard here because the fret eraser is not actually touching the fingerboards on the top of the frets. Yeah, there are some divots which would need, proper polishing and that, but that's not what the owner is looking for. He really wanted me to just address the fall away issue. But I'll clean these up. And I'll go over it with the 1000 after. Okay, that's going to be a short one, just addressing the fall away issue here. And I think we've done that. Peel this tape off. And the next thing I'm going to end up doing is changing the nut on this guitar. So stay tuned for that video. Tape's good for picking up loose things too. Alright, see you in the next one. Ciao.